Okay. So I have a friend here, Chanee, and we are going to discuss forgiving yourself for um, engaging in perfectionism and how it kind of holds you back. So, do you want to share a little bit about yourself, Chanee, for the listeners?
Yeah, first off, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. And for everyone tuning in, it's an honor to be in your ear. My name is Chanee. Like Leah said, I'm a mindset and success coach. Actually, I'm going to add to that. I'm a spiritual mindset and success coach. And I specialize in helping female entrepreneurs and coaches heal their limiting beliefs, namely the worthiness wound, and overcome those limiting mindset blocks so that they can reach their highest potential in life and business. So that's what I do. But who I am is I'm an animal lover. I rescue cats. I'm a book nerd. I'm a wife. I'm a firm mom. Who else am I? I'm a myriad of different things. But I just love helping others. And I've gone through a lot in my life to kind of like get to where I am. And my real passion is kind of overcoming the things myself and then being able to reflect those learnings like back to my clients, my community, my family, and just kind of like help people in that way.
Awesome. And I just want to say, when I first met you, I just loved the energy.
Aw.
Um, and even we were way across the room, and when you got up to introduce yourself, I was like, oh, she could totally be my coach. So yeah, you definitely, from what I experienced, you walk your talk. So I definitely love that about you.
Thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot because integrity is one of my values.
Yes, and it definitely comes across. So let's just jump right into this because we had an opportunity to talk just a little bit about your past.
Mhm.
And, um, one thing that you did not share was that you used to be a professional, was it bodybuilder?
Yeah.
And with that, I know just from, I grew up with a lady named Betty who was a bodybuilder. And it was intense. She was really intense about food and what she looked like, what she wore. So can you like tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. One, that's cool. I didn't know you live with a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
So you get it. So yeah, I actually started off as a professional competitor. So I did my first show. Well, I started off as an amateur. I did my first show in 2013, and that was actually my senior year of college. And I stumbled onto bodybuilding through a friend. I had never I've always been petite, like I'm a small person. And when I went to college, I had gained a lot of weight just from bad lifestyle, lots of drinking. And so when my friend showed me bodybuilders, I was like, oh my God. I was like, that is amazing. The other thing that really struck me was their beauty. I grew up getting made fun of for how I looked all the time. So I'm half Japanese, half Mexican. My dad was in the military. We moved 7 times by the time I was in seventh grade, and um, I just always got made fun of for how I looked. I was bullied a lot, and so I just wanted to be beautiful. So I see these women on stage and they have these like perfect bikinis and like perfect hair and makeup. And I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. And it was around the time that my ex had planted a story in my head that I was fat, that I didn't look good. And so it was sort of a double-edged sword of I wanted to prove him wrong. And I also wanted to prove to myself that I could do something. And so then came the journey of competing for my first show. Senior in college, I'm working 3 jobs to make ends meet. It's expensive. And I decided to just go all in. And I developed an eating disorder because of it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
developed body image dysmorphia because of it. My coach was really great in the sense that like he knew how to diet someone down so they could turn pro, and he knew the industry, and so he knew just exactly how you should pose and things like that, but he didn't value me as a person. And so coming from a sort of this I don't want to say traumatic, but yeah, this traumatic background of I'm incredibly disciplined. I listen to I'm great. I'm a great student. I'll do anything you tell me to. So I starved myself. I starved myself for the show, and I won. And I got my pro card. So then creates that just, mind game of, in order to be worthy, in order to be loved, in order to feel like I really matter, I have to be doing these big things and gain achievement from them. And the lifestyle behind bodybuilding is perfection. It's about excellence. It's taking your food scale to the restaurant and weighing out your rice, it's weighing out your broccoli. It's being perfect, absolutely perfect. And my coach was one who just kind of gave me like a meal plan, so it wasn't tailored to my body, and I starved myself. And yeah, that's what created this whole sort of like just mind game in me, that in order to be worthy, I had to be perfect, and in order to be perfect, I had to be working towards these really unattainable levels of perfection within my body and like excellence. So even though it was really traumatic in the sense that I gained an eating disorder and really big body image dysmorphia, the motivation that came from it, and like the sense of accomplishment, and like the personal development journey I went on was pretty addicting. And so I continued to compete thereafter. But that's like where it started.
So I guess the next question I have, knowing that um, it caused the dysmorphia and the eating disorder, does that still affect you today?
No, because I've done a lot of healing.
Okay, good.
It did for a long time. So then what happened? That was 2013. I kind of took a year off. And then 2015, I made a commitment to myself. I said, you know what? I'm going to compete again because I want to compete as a pro. This has been my dream. I really want to do this, but I'm only going to do it in the healthiest way possible. And so I made that commitment to myself. And I actually coached myself for my first 3 pro shows, and learned all the ins and outs of nutrition, of training, of peak week, of macros. But again, because of my inner child wounds, which I haven't brought up, but because of just like the experiences that I had growing up, a lot of my inner child wounds, I was so obsessed with like perfection and excellence. So what started back off again as like a healthy hobby and endeavor quickly spiraled into um, um, like bad again. It was just bad. So I should have taken a break after the second show, should have taken a break after the third show, but instead I kept pushing myself. I kept going, 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 going. I kept trying to achieve more levels of perfection. And then it was after my 5th show that I really had to look myself in the mirror and say, if you don't take a break, then you're gonna ruin your body. And it even isn't about my body anymore, it's my mental health. Like if you don't take this break, like you are going to break down. Because it was to the point where I was extremely reactive. I was I wasn't a good wife, let me just put it plainly. I wasn't a good
Yes.
friend. All of my energy was going towards the show and competing and my food and my body. And so I went back to it, like, wanting it to be healthy, but because of just like the stuff that I grew up with and the beliefs that I had about myself, it just quickly spiraled out of control again.
And I guess that's another thing. It's like, I know that when you're competing at that level,
Mhm.
just from, the personal experience of having 2 people that I know that were bodybuilders, their marriage, it took such a heavy toll
Mhm.
um, that, they end up divorcing
Mhm.
ultimately. But um, how did that like affect, you said, you knew you wasn't a good wife and you knew you weren't being a good friend. So what was the journey that you went on to heal those relationships?
Mhm. Mhm. That's a great question. So my husband has always been extremely supportive of my bodybuilding career, and he was the one that actually inspired me to get back into it. We met at the gym, and that's a whole long story, but he's amazing and he loves the lifestyle. So it didn't put a strain on our relationship lifestyle wise because we worked out together, we ate the same food, we drank, everything was the same. And so that was never really put on a strain. I think what the strain was, it was more so intimacy wise, to be honest with you, because my hormones were shot. And so, when you get to a point where your hormones are shot, like there is no intimacy. So while we had like a surface level amazing relationship in terms of like we're a team and, we've got our dogs and our cats and we do everything together, I felt like something was missing. And so it actually came to like kind of like I don't know what you call it, but like, these 2 points of my life were clashing. And in order to heal my relationship with him, I had to heal my relationship with myself.
Mhm.
So it really wasn't about him and it was really about how I viewed myself because after the last show, I gained 20 pounds. And so I felt very unattractive and I felt like I was unworthy and I felt like I was unloved and I was projecting my insecurities onto him. And he's like solid. He was like, Shanae, we're fine. Like, what are you
Yeah.
so acting so crazy about? And I was the one that was like, something's wrong with my hormones, something's wrong with my body. Like, I need to go and get tested. And he looked at me and he was like, it's not that, it's this. And he pointed to his head. I was like, it's your mindset. He was like, it's your mindset. It's not your hormones. Like, stop blaming all this stuff. My husband's amazing. He's the best mirror for me. So then I was like, oh, I was like, yeah, you're right. And so um, it was more so healing my relationship with myself. And that's when I went down a new healing journey of self-love, unconditional self-love, of self-worth, realizing that I had placed so much of my worth in validation externally. So my external achievements, how I looked, in how people viewed me. I used to be like a people pleaser and I really wanted people to accept me and to like me. And that's one of my core wounds is always going back to, are they going to like me? Are they going to accept me? And so I did a ton of healing work, therapy, lots of body work. It was actually my massage therapist who I was like unloading all of this onto her. And she was like, are you judging yourself or are you meeting yourself with compassion? And that was the first time anyone had ever asked me about compassion. I wasn't taught compassion. My mom didn't teach me compassion. My dad did not teach me compassion. My culture does not teach me compassion. And then I really wanted to have a baby at that time too. And she was like, before you have a baby, you need to take care of little Shanae that's in there. And that's what sparked inner child healing for me. And so I went down a journey of inner child healing, of worthiness and perfectionism, and then also self doubt, because a lot of doubt had piled up on top of me. And I was using competing as the band aid for this void.
Yeah. And see, let's talk about that validation because we had a brief moment where you were telling me about um, your stepmother,
Yeah.
and let's just get into the deep stuff here.
I'm
Um,
ready for
yeah, and it just struck me, and it still, I mean, that was weeks ago when you told me that, and it hurt my heart
it.
when you told me that she expected for you to be perfect all the time and for you to know what she wanted without even expressing that to you. And so I can see where that need to feel validated all the time would come from, or people please, because, as girls, our mothers are our role models, or, they're supposed to be.
Mhm.
Um, so, tell me a little bit more about that because you touched on the inner child thing, and I think a lot of people don't realize
Mhm.
that the root cause of a lot of their issues happened when they were a child.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I'm really impressed that you remembered exactly what I said.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. So that came from really realizing, because I had to like really look at myself in the mirror and be like, where did this come from? Like, why am I such a people pleaser? Why am I so concerned about what others think of me and their perception of me? To the point where I'd be at the gym and I would notice that someone wanted the machine I was using, and I would like be like, "Oh, here, come take the machine, use it." And my husband's like, what are you doing? Or like I would tell him, "No, don't use that bench. That person is using it." And he was like, "I'm working out." Why are you so like, sensitive to everything around you? And I was like, God, why am I like that? And so I was actually watching a Tony Robbins, the Netflix show, and he asked a question. He said, gut reaction growing up, whose love did you crave the most, your mom or your dad? And usually I would say my dad. And at first I said my dad, but then I realized, oh, it's my stepmom. And then the second question is, who did you have to become in order to receive that love? And I was like, I had to become perfect. I had to, just exactly like you said, exactly what I told you, I had to anticipate her needs before she would tell me. And she actually told me that. She was like, I want you to do it without me telling you to do it, specifically for like cleaning. Like, I want you to clean this before I tell you to clean it. And yeah, I had to be perfect. I had to, speak when spoken to or be quiet after that. I had to get good grades. I speak fluent Japanese. I would come home, I'm in first grade, kindergarten. I'd come home from school and she would have me do Japanese school when I got home. The summers before, like, third grade start. So the summer before third grade, she'd buy me a homeschooling book and I would do the third grade homeschooling book during the summer. So that going into the school year, I already knew everything. So, and whenever I talk about this stuff or speak about inner child healing to my clients, it's not that your parents are bad people.
Yeah.
So like, I have no hatred towards her. I have no anger towards her. Like, it's not that she's a bad person. It's that that's how she grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Those are generational traumas, generational wounds that have been handed down generation after generation, that after generation. It's the mother wound. It's probably the same expectations her mom had on her. And so, we're born perfect and then we're handed to parents and people are imperfect, right? Humans are imperfect. And so these experiences that I had really made me think that I needed to be different. And so just through my upbringing with her, I thought I had to be perfect. Whenever she would show me love or appreciation or be like, good job, was when I, people pleased, was perfect and anticipated her needs before she would tell me. So when I made that connection, I was like, oh, that's why in my adult life I do this, because this is what I think gains love.
Yeah, because that's like so much responsibility to put on a child.
Hmm.
Um, and just like you said, parents are imperfect. Um, I can't say that I had that. No, I can say I had that people pleasing, but it was more I wanted to please my dad.
Mm.
I wanted to make sure that um, I was living the life that he, envisioned for me. And then I had a wake up call um, when I was 25, and I'm like, if I keep doing it his way, I'm never going to evolve into the person I want to be.
Yeah.
Um, and I had to go through that journey of self forgiveness.
Mhm.
And to be perfectly honest, I still have work to do. I think I probably always will have work to do, but um, like you, I don't hold any ill will because I know how he grew up
Mhm.
and my mom, and so it's so much responsibility. And now going forward, um, you know, how has that affected your relationship with your stepmom? Like, have you had a conversation with her about it?
I have. So I was kicked out at 18. I was in high school, just turned
Mm.
18, and my parents kicked me out. So, it's been, and that was 10, 12. That was 12 years ago. I just turned 30.
Okay.
Love it. It feels so good.
Yeah.
But because of that, it's been more than one thing, but because of um, being kicked out at 18 and just doing what I had to do to survive, it became like really clear to me what I needed in my life and what I don't need in my life. And I've had a lot of courageous conversations with them, and I've been doing the healing work with therapy and Reiki and all the things to really release all of it. And so when I expressed to her, I'm going to therapy because of this is this. And then like my biological mom, that's a whole nother thing, but when I expressed it to her, she was a little bit like, why aren't you over that?
Mm.
Like, especially with that, like kicking me out, she's like, why are you still hung up on that? And so it's kind of one of those things where then you just have to look at yourself and be like, are you happy? And I'm happy. Like, I'm so happy. I'm happy with the life that I have. I'm happy with the experiences that I've been through. And if my happiness means that certain people don't get access to my life all the time, then I'd rather disappoint them than disappoint myself.
Yeah. And that makes so much sense. It's just basically having the boundaries and
Yeah.
respecting yourself enough to know everyone cannot have access to me
Hmm.
for my own mental health, for my own healing.
Hmm.
I have to just disengage. And I know I've been that way for a long time. Um, and my mom struggles with that,
Hmm.
with me not allowing, in her mind, if it's family, they have first dibs. And I'm like, no, that's not how it goes. If you show me who you are once, I believe it, and that's it. That's all I need is one time.
Hmm.
Um, and the inner child work. I really still want to talk about that
Yeah.
because what exactly for you?
You just cut out for a moment. What was your question?
Oh, what does that exactly entail? Like for you, when you're doing the inner child work, do you have a specific modality that you use, or therapy,
Hmm.
or what?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think step one is just acknowledging that you have an inner child, that there is an inner child within you who, when there's an inner child within you that perhaps has unmet needs, needs that didn't get met. And when your needs aren't met, what can happen is that we externalize those needs and we try and get it from other people. So that was like where like I externalized my worthiness and I tried to get it from my achievements and people pleasing. And let me tell you, every single boyfriend, guess who's their moms love me the most?
Hmm.
Like I could get moms to love me instantly. If I, went to my friend's house, I could get your parents to love me instantly. And so, that became sort of like my defense mechanism. Like I don't want people to not like me. I don't want people to not accept me. So let me be like the best thing you've ever met in your life. And so that is the the inner child, that's the wounded inner child acting out because she doesn't not want to feel accepted and loved. And so one is just acknowledging that we have an inner child, and then two, what it came down to was every single time I was wanting to people please or be perfect, I had to look within and say, what needs are not being met that I need to meet myself. So it's the process of reparenting. So if before I used external validation, say like my Instagram, if I was using my Instagram as a means to dictate my worthiness, then I would reparent myself. I would like find myself doing something in that moment, and I would reframe, shift, change my actions, change my behaviors. Journaling was an extremely therapeutic thing for me. And so I committed to journaling every single day, and I have a whole flow. And in one of the sections of my flow is intention. So stating your intention, like, who do you want to be? And so for one of my intentions was like, I am loved and I'm safe and I matter. And that's the process of inner child healing, of meeting those needs that were not met and committing that process to yourself. And the next time you want to be in victim mentality, you want to blame someone or your mom or your dad for the way that you are, bringing yourself back to cause and meeting the need yourself. And so that's a lot of what inner child healing is. And it's kind of a lifestyle, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Yeah, anytime I just, that feeling of unease or dis-ease creeps up into my body, or it's mostly perfectionism. Like when I find myself trying to overperform or like try to be perfect, I look within and I'm like, okay, like what's up? Why do I feel the need to overperform and be perfect? What is going on in my internal world, my heart, my mind, my soul, my spirit, that needs acknowledgement? And I sit with that and I acknowledge my feelings and I feel my feelings. And sometimes it's very uncomfortable. And a lot of times I don't want to do it.
Yeah. And
But we
see,
make
and
space.
that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just make space for it. And in doing so, it's increased my capacity to be uncomfortable, which has then increased my capacity to sit outside of my comfort zone, to take action, because the limits of our success are the limits of these beliefs that we have about ourselves and how much discomfort we're willing to feel.
And I completely agree with that. Just thinking about my journey from 2016 till now, I'm a completely different person because I did a lot of mirror work.
Yeah.
Um, and that was intense, I'd be sitting there just bawling, and my husband would walk in. It's like, what is wrong with you? And it's like, just, I'm having a moment. It's
Don't ask.
personal development. Just leave me alone. But yeah,
Yeah. I've had,
that,
yeah, I've had coaches, like coaches who have really seen me for who I am. And I have to say, my last coach, she was incredible. She would not validate me. Like, she would not validate me. And for the long, we worked together for 2 years. I tried to get her to like me. I did that defense mechanism thing where I try to woo her. She wouldn't have it. She would not give it to me. And that was probably one of the most healing things, of being put into a situation, being put into a container for growth, for healing and for growth. Someone who was going to hold me to that, someone who wasn't going to enable me or validate me or allow me to, like, revert back to my child self. So I think coaching is an incredible resource.
I totally agree with that. Um, I didn't even know what coaching was per se until about 2016. And I call him, he was my mentor.
Mhm.
He wasn't necessarily a coach, but he called me on my bullshit, and he said, until you get out of victimhood and
Mhm.
realize that it might be you, you're going to keep going down this path and you're not going to have the success that you want. So get your shit together,
Yeah.
go do the healing that you need to get done. And it was a double-edged sword because he was telling me this, but then if I wasn't having the breakthroughs like everybody else was in his group, then he kind of made you feel like there was something wrong with you.
Mm.
And so I kept internalizing that as, well, I'm not having the breakthrough, so maybe it's me.
Mhm.
There's something clearly wrong with me. Um, and I really believed that it's just me. I'm not ever going to be able to have the breakthroughs and do, um, these amazing things that all the rest of his students are doing.
Mhm.
And, um, I know a lot of people out there, a lot of listeners probably feel that way.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I guess that my next question, just to segue into that, is what advice would you give someone who feels like they can't break through, or that, that they're always going to seek validation to be perfect, or um, whatever it is that they may be struggling with? Because there's an array of different things, but I think for me and for you, one of the things were perfectionism.
Hmm. Hmm. Do more B plus work.
Good.
Because your B plus is probably someone else's like A plus 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 plus, or like R, you know what I mean? Like just do more B plus work, because like we can strive for excellence, and excellence used to be one of my values, but I actually had to switch it because it was coming from like more of a scarcity mindset. And I changed it to always be learning.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of always like striving to be the best version of yourself, it's like, I'm just a student. I'm just here to learn. And one of my past lives, I was actually a philosophy student. I was a student of Plato. So I was like, that's perfect. So always be learning. And then the B plus work is what changed my life. If it's not B plus, then you're allowing perfectionism to like get in your way and cloud your judgment, and to, yeah, just take away from it. And it's like, I don't know. That's just my mantra. I heard it on a podcast once and I was like, I'm going to use it. Just do
I
more.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
love
going to
it.
make a shirt. I think we all need a
Yeah,
shirt.
right. Because when you said it, it just automatically like, oh, I like it. I like that. Yeah, because I know for me, I actually just decided to go back to school, and I graduated in December. Um, I don't know why. It's like it was the perfectionism. I made a choice when I was 17 years old to, go be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
I have no desire to be a nurse, but because that was um, a goal that I made and I didn't succeed or finish it, I felt like I had to finish it. And then I'm like, I have my degree and I'm like, what's the point? Like, I don't want to do this. This is not really what I want to do. But all through school, I chased perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Had to be an A, had to be an A. I wanted a specific GPA. I wanted to graduate with honors, and I did. And then it's just like the universe just slapped me down today because I got an email that said, um, good job for graduating, but your ass ain't walking the stage because we're doing virtual. So I did all that for nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, oh well, I guess that's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then here you are saying strive for the B plus, and I'm like, I should have just did that because at the end of the day, I'm not going to walk, which is one of the reasons why I went back to school, um, and then it wasn't a big deal anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you,
And in that mantra, it's like not to say like don't like try your best. It's just that when you are someone who struggles with perfectionism, our best is unrealistic. It's
mm-hmm,
unattainable, and it's also I think it's also a little bit I'm going to use the word unhealthy, but it's unhealthy to our mental health because we're putting so much pressure on ourselves to be, look, or do a certain way when it doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't matter. And so it's like, not that we don't want you to do your best. We do want you to do your best. But when you struggle with perfectionism, B plus is A plus work. You just need to start seeing it like that. Because when you constantly, yeah, it's just a lot of times we're, trying to achieve this level of perfection that just is unhealthy, unattainable, and it creates more dis-ease in our body. So it's like it's not actually amplifying and adding to and like making our life better. It's making our life harder.
and I could not agree more. And I didn't realize, until, like I said, I started my journey. I would wake up in the morning and just feel this heaviness,
Mm-hmm.
and I could never really pinpoint it. And, I was like, what in the world? And I feel like I had this cosmic slap down at the end of 2017 because I had enabled, or not even enabled, I've engaged in this journey of um, I have to be perfect. I have to be perfect. And I was hitting all these accolades in my business. I was hitting leaderboards. I was,
Mhm.
getting all these shout outs from the company and getting featured. And then I got sick.
Mm,
And I was sick for like a month or so. Um, and because of that, I wasn't online. And it just spiraled down.
mhm.
And I couldn't, by the time I started to feel better, I didn't want to be online anymore. So I didn't want to show up because I didn't want to have to be a performer because that's
Mhm.
what I felt like I was doing.
Mhm.
Um, and I had to perform so that I looked perfect and I had to do all these things. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what, if I can't be authentically Leah,
Mhm.
then I'm just not gonna go, I'm just not gonna do it anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope that more people get to that point
Mhm. Mhm.
that, it's okay to not be perfect.
Mhm.
A matter of fact, it's best to embrace the imperfections that you have because it's going to resonate with more people.
Yes, that's what I was gonna tell you.
Yeah.
Your story actually reminded me of, the last show that I did in 2017, and I gained a lot of weight very quickly afterwards, and I didn't want to show up online either. And I
Hmm.
had been showing up online for years. I had created this persona of being the girl who competed at every show, the girl who was always lean, the girl who was perfect with her workouts and her macros, and like, this is my lifestyle. And I really like promoted this lifestyle, right? I'm using quotation marks. And then it was all gone. And I hit rock bottom, and that had happened before in 2013 after the first show when I gained all that weight. And but this time I had a reputation. This time I was a coach, I was a pro, people knew me, and so it felt like a huge, just like you said, cosmic slapdown of just like, what is actually important to you, Chanee? And then so what helped me heal, and what you just so beautifully did here, was vulnerability. I
Hmm.
became vulnerable to my community about what I was struggling with. I talked about my eating disorders. I talked about working out with the sweater on and feeling so insecure in my body and feeling just terrible. Like I just felt terrible. And about the binging and about how my self love was totally gone. And in sharing, not only was I able to heal, but then the ripple effect that came from that was so incredible. It gave others permission to come forward about their eating disorder, like the binge eating, about how they also place so much of their worthiness in their body, and how we get into this like addictive cycle of needing to do the next show to lose weight. Because when you get into this unhealthy cycle of like, you can't even eat normal anymore, and you can't even exercise, or you're so sick of exercising you don't even want to work out. So it's this really, 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 really negative cycle. And so, yeah, it just created that ripple effect for others to be able to heal. I healed, and my business like quadrupled itself in a month.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
I was like, all of a sudden, I had like 20 new clients, and I wasn't gonna be a competition prep coach after that. After that show, I was like, I'm done with this life. Like, I'm done with this sport. But what happened was that women came to me who wanted to compete, but they didn't want to develop the eating disorder after. And so
Yep.
then I was able to create a program that integrated life coaching with competition prep so that they could do something like a show, get the personal and professional development that comes from really pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, of committing to this goal of yeah, just real commitment and discipline, but without the after effects that I had gone through. Um, but of course, some people still did. And so that's why I was like, I got to be in integrity, and I can't, like, we don't have to do a show to get the transformation. So that's why now I'm just a life coach.
Yeah. Well, but
Which,
you still are in the transformation business, but just
yes.
in a healthier sense. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So exactly what you said. I hope that people are able to really see that and give themselves permission. Um, yeah, just give yourself permission to heal. Find a place where you can be vulnerable. Find someone who you can talk to about this. Because as Brene Brown says, vulnerability cannot, like shame cannot exist in vulnerability. And shame is really what's holding us back from releasing the perfection and really allowing ourselves to be who we truly are.
Very well said. So with that, I think we like dropped so many nuggets
That
on
was
this
good.
episode. Yeah. So where can people see more from you?
Yeah. So I also have a podcast, so you can come and listen to that. It's called Your Highest Self. And we're on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And I think like most of your favorite podcast players. So I hang out on there. And then I also hang out on Instagram. You can come and follow me there. And if you're into healing, if healing is something you want to do, I have a healing collective. It's called Evolve, and it's for coaches, entrepreneurs, and service providers who are on their ever evolving journey of self growth. So, this is where you can come and start to implement these habits that we were talking about, like journaling, mirror work, breath work, meditation, inner child healing, and really just start to keep some promises to yourself, which is like the basis of inner child work, and promises that are regarding to like your own self-care and your own self-growth. So it's like healing always starts from within, and so that's what we focus on there, is developing the habits that are the foundation of your like healing and self-growth journey.
Awesome. Awesome. So I want to just thank you for taking the time out to come and be on my podcast. And I hope that you'll come back and we can talk about something else here soon, because I definitely enjoyed having you as a guest.
Thank you so much. You're an incredible interviewer. This was really a treat, and yeah, I'm really grateful. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.